Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt is making the rounds of Capitol Hill for one-on-one meetings with senators. So far, he's meeting with senators who support his nomination to head the Environmental Protection Agency. At the same time, senators and others who strongly oppose his confirmation are digging into Pruitt's past and working to build public opinion against Pruitt's nomination.
The first Senator Scott Pruitt went to see is also his biggest supporter, fellow climate denier and EPA opponent, Senator Jim Inhofe. Making the rounds of senators' offices is part of the confirmation process. At the same time, Pruitt is the subject of intense scrutiny by his opponents, who are poring over his past, looking for things they can use against him. Already, there is an advertisement that urges the public to do their part to block Pruitt's confirmation to head the EPA.
The American Pediatric Association reports the brains of developing children are disproportionately affected by mercury exposure. Scott Pruitt, who's been nominated to run the environment.
The advertisement will air in districts of U.S. senators that are seen as possibly open to voting against Pruitt for the head of the EPA. It is also available on the Internet.
We can't trust Pruitt with our kids' health. Ask the Senate to vote no on Pruitt.
Members of the Senate who oppose Pruitt sent him a letter explaining that his relationship with the oil and gas industry will be a focus of his confirmation hearings. Also, Pruitt's founding relationship with the Rule of Law Defense Fund, which reportedly has received funding from the Koch brothers. And it is Pruitt's own words that will likely come up during those hearings. In November of 2013, for example, Pruitt made it clear what he thinks of the EPA in a speech before the High Noon Club.
And the EPA is one of the best at looking at a statute and saying, I know the law says this, but really, they meant this.
Pruitt also told the group he believes the EPA has a sue and settle arrangement with environmental groups.
They'll come in and sue the EPA, and they'll say, you know what, you need to do this. If you haven't done it, you need to do this. And the same day that the lawsuit is initiated by that environmental group, guess what the EPA does? Raises their hand, raises the white flag, and says, oh, you guys, wink, wink.
Attorney General Pruitt also believes coal will always be a key part of the nation's electric generating process.
And for those environmentalists to think that they're going to replace it with renewables, that is fanciful. Renewables will not replace coal as it relates to baseload energy, ever. That's right. Ever.
And the Attorney General is also a supporter of the Keystone Pipeline, which has been the focus of large ongoing protests in North Dakota.
Why hasn't the Keystone Pipeline been built? Yeah, really. And I'll tell you why it hasn't been built. Anti-fossil fuel agenda by the EPA.
Speaking at the 2016 annual Western Chapters Conference of the Federalist Society, Pruitt explained that he is not playing politics with all the lawsuits he's filed against the EPA. Instead, he sees himself in the role of playing out what the Founding Fathers put in the Constitution.
The founders understood that we needed horizontal between the branches, but there's also something they put inherent in the Constitution, vertical checks and balances. That the federal government is a government of enumerated power, specific power, and you know that, but you look at what's going on in Washington, D.C. today, and it's not playing out that way.
Scott Pruitt endorses a new law that would require any major rules or regulations from a federal agency to gain congressional approval before the rule could take effect. Speaking at another Federalist Society event in September of this year, Pruitt said he thinks the EPA already has to get congressional approval for such rules as the Clean Power Plan.
We believe, from a constitutional perspective, a statutory perspective, case law perspective, that they have to what? Congress has to speak with a clear statement that EPA has that authority to regulate in the fashion that they have. And we think that is clearly not the case.
Pruitt believes the EPA wants to end the use of fossil fuel to generate electricity, but can't just order that, so he says they created the Clean Power Plan with emission provisions that can only be met by ending the use of coal.
And that's why we believe that that is a form of coercion by the EPA, forcing the states to take action to do what? Accomplish the shifting of electricity generation to other sources.
Meanwhile, cash continues to roll into Pruitt's super PAC, Liberty 2.0. One recent donation of $50,000 came from Murray Energy Corp., an Ohio-based mine owner. The August donation arrived as Pruitt prepared for a key court appearance in his challenge of EPA restrictions on power plants. Pruitt's super PAC apparently can continue to receive money from companies that the EPA regulates, even if he is confirmed to head the EPA.